A federal judge has just dealt a crushing blow to ICE. But here's the kicker. This ruling could change everything for protesters, journalists, and the very fabric of democracy. No more tear gas, no more projectiles, just the right to protest peacefully. In a time of heightened tension, this isn't just a legal decision. It's a pivotal moment for our rights. Why should this matter to you? Because this decision could set a nationwide precedent. And trust me, what happens next will leave you questioning everything. Stay with me, because the story's about to take a shocking turn. So what exactly happened? A judge in Oregon has now barred ICE from using tear gas, rubber bullets, or any form of excessive force against peaceful protesters and journalists outside their Portland facility. At first glance, it sounds like just another ruling. But this isn't an isolated case. This could signal a massive shift in how the government handles public demonstrations. The bigger question, if this decision holds, will it spark a chain reaction across the country? Will other judges start following suit? And what does it mean for the future of protest rights? Stick with me, because what's happening in Oregon could be the beginning of something much bigger. Judge Simon didn't hold back. In his ruling, he called out the government's use of excessive force, saying it violated constitutional rights. He didn't just stop at the legal side, he made it clear. In a well-functioning democracy, free speech and peaceful protest are not just allowed, they're celebrated. But here's the catch. He also pointed out that we're no longer in a system that operates like a democracy. He's telling us outright that our nation is at a crossroads. And here's what's missing. He didn't just issue a ruling, he made a statement that echoes a much larger truth about the state of our democracy. If the government can ignore the Constitution with no consequences, what's next? Hold tight, because the full implications are just starting to unfold. But this isn't just about Portland. This ruling could be the beginning of something far larger. When we look back at how things have escalated in the past few years, it's clear. Excessive force by federal agents against civilians is becoming disturbingly normalized. Think about it. Just a few years ago, it was unimaginable that peaceful protesters would face chemical weapons or munitions. Now, it's happening regularly. Judge Simon's decision could be the catalyst to stop it. He's setting a precedent that could force other courts to stand up, to challenge this rise in unchecked government power. And let's be honest, if the courts don't step in now, where do we go from here? The pressure is mounting, and if nothing changes, we could see even more aggressive tactics on the streets. The stakes are higher than ever, and the next move is already forming. Now, this ruling isn't just about stopping tear gas. It's about calling out the entire system. The judge also pointed out something critical. ICE agents had been using force in ways that directly targeted people's constitutional rights. And it wasn't just protesters. He specifically mentioned how children were caught up in this tear gas used indiscriminately, affecting families who were simply exercising their rights. This isn't just overreach. It's a blatant disregard for human rights. And here's the real kicker. Despite this, we're still seeing no accountability from those in charge. ICE and other federal agents have been operating with impunity, violating the basic principles of our democracy. This decision, it changes the narrative. If this ruling stands, it'll force the system to reckon with the fact that these abuses have been happening and they need to stop. The question is, will anyone in power be held accountable? Or will this be yet another ruling that goes unheeded? And just as this ruling lands, things are starting to spiral. First, the Portland ruling, an important win. Then the next day, reports come in from other cities. Protesters are being hit with rubber bullets, pepper spray, and tear gas in ways that clearly violate constitutional rights. And while the media focuses on the chaos, what's not being discussed? That this isn't happening just once. This has become the new normal. The federal government is operating outside the law, unchecked. But here's where it gets even more intense. As the pressure rises, we're seeing a growing divide between what the law says and how federal agents are acting. The courts are starting to react, but what happens if this continues? The pressure will keep building, and if there's no accountability, if these tactics aren't reined in, we could see this escalate into something far worse. Stay with me, because the worst may still be coming. Now let's take a moment and bring this back to you. Because the truth is, this isn't just about legal battles or government agencies. It's about real people. It's about the everyday person who simply wants to stand up, speak out, and make their voice heard without fear of being gassed, shot at, or detained without cause. These are not abstract concepts. This is what happens when the rights we take for granted are stripped away. Families, children, journalists, people just like you are finding themselves caught in the crossfire of a government more willing to wield force than respect freedom. If this feels familiar, say so in the comments, because this could be happening in any city at any time if we don't act. But here's the unsettling truth behind all of this. This isn't just a case of rogue agents stepping out of line. This is a system at work, a system where excessive force is not just tolerated, but incentivized. From the top down, there's been a pattern of eroding checks and balances, a culture where the rule of law is often seen as optional. It's about fear, it's about spectacle. When you can make an example of people through force, you control the narrative. You manipulate the public perception. And the more this happens, the less power people have to challenge it. That's the mechanism at play here. The courts are stepping in, but only because they can't ignore the chaos anymore. They're acting as a last line of defense, but the question remains, how long can they hold the line if the system keeps pushing back? This isn't just a legal issue, it's a fight for the very soul of the nation. So, where does this go from here? There are two possible paths. On one hand, if the courts continue to stand firm, if more judges follow in Judge Simon's footsteps, we could see a wave of legal challenges that forces a major shift in how federal agencies operate. The government might be forced to rethink its tactics, scaling back the use of excessive force. But there's another possibility, one that's much darker. If the courts back down, or if the system continues to sideline these rulings, we could see an even more aggressive push from federal agents. The unchecked use of force could become more widespread with even fewer consequences. And here's where it gets tricky. Either way, this momentum is building and the next move is already taking shape. What happens next could determine the future of protests, press freedom, and the rights we take for granted. In the end, this ruling isn't just about one judge or one city. It's a signal that the fight for basic rights is far from over. The question isn't just about whether we'll see more rulings like this, it's whether we'll see a shift in how we treat the very freedoms that define us. The path ahead is uncertain, but the implications of what's happening are massive. If we don't stay vigilant, we risk losing the very rights that allow us to speak, protest, and demand change. This is only the beginning. For ongoing analysis of this shifting legal landscape, make sure to follow and subscribe. There's a lot more to come.